pure materialistic perspective, in what way are we equal? You know, if someone says, well, we're all equal human beings, and I say, well, I mean, what does that mean? We're not equal within the human beings. And if you just, oh, well, you're equal because you have the characteristic of a human being, and that makes you equal, then why not I say you're equal to this chair because you both have the characteristic of matter? And so you're both equal in that sense. It doesn't make, philosophically, you can't justify equality. You can justify it relative to a criteria, and our criteria is God, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In His eyes, we are all equal. Now, that being established, we are different as well. And we see in the animal kingdom that within each species, there are various differences. For example, take the ants. You see soldier ants, you see worker ants, you see the queen ant. You don't see the soldier ant saying, hey, why don't we be the queen? This is inequality. You don't see the worker ants saying, why don't we be soldiers? Why can't we be let into the ant army? And so on. No, because they're specialized. They have specialisms. I mean, they're all important. They're all important, but they're specialized. They do different things. It doesn't mean they're not equal. Now, in that sense, Islam looks at the family in the same manner. Men and women are not identical. Obviously, we have anatomical differences, and like in any other creatures on this earth, which we believe God created, there are differences. And these differences, like in every other creature on the planet, would require some kind of specialization, because naturally we are specialized. Now, so women form the basis of families at their center, at their heart. And men's roles are actually defined in relation to women. So whereas women's roles are defined intrinsically as being the heart of the family, the men's role almost orbits around the woman's role. Men's roles are defined as being the maintainers and protectors of the women, so that women are free to nurture humanity. So instead of women orbiting around men, so to speak, and women just being an accessory to men, as people imagine the Sharia says, it's actually the opposite is the case. The case is that, shukran, thank you, brother. The case is that actually it's men that kind of orbit around women. Men are the protectors and maintainers of women. The definition of their role is relative to the other, whereas for a woman, she intrinsically she is the basis of the family, she is the heart of it. And we see in the Quran it says, and women shall have rights similar to the rights against them, according to what is equitable, but men have a degree of responsibility over them, and Allah is exalted in power and wise. Now we see that in the West, the concept of equality is for a woman to resemble what a man considers is successful, i.e. having a career. But who says that a career is better than motherhood? And who says that that basically just earning money is equal to maintaining a family and maintaining the future of the human race? It is, this lie is kind of perpetuate that, oh yes, if you don't earn money, you're inferior. You're somehow not earning your potential. Now, Islam allows women to work, and she can work, but Islam expects men, being the maintainers and protectors of women, that's his responsibility, and his responsibility, which is an obligation upon the man. He must protect and maintain women. But we don't view that just having a job it makes you better than not having a job because you're looking after family. Looking after family, nurturing the future of the human race is more important than just making women comfortable, while they're doing this. The man just makes women comfortable. That's all we do. We make women comfortable for them to be the heart of the family, for them to give birth to the future of the human race, for them to nurture the human race. And then as men, once that's done, we die. And that's our role done, basically. We're like drones in a way, in the kind of grand scheme of things. And, this is basically just us playing up to our specializations. Now, the Islamic social system is designed such that a woman should never have to worry about their upkeep and the protection of her person or her children. She's always guaranteed a guardian, but a man is not. And men are obligated in Islam to spend of their wealth on the upkeep of women, but women do not have to spend a single iota of their wealth on men. Women are entitled to alimony after divorce, but men are not. So basically, a woman, even if she is richer than her husband, she doesn't have to actually spend any money on her husband or the family. It's the husband's duty and role to do so. Now, as I said, from that perspective, I think people could even say that maybe Islam is unfair on men. It expects them to work, expects them to look after their wives, expects them to look. I mean, the woman is just content being, obviously in the Islamic model, the woman just has to basically be the center of the family. She has to be the heart of the family. But the man, he has to go out, he has to toil, he has to bring home the bread and look after her and protect her, and is responsible for her well-being. Whereas as the wife, she doesn't have to do obviously do those things or worry about those things. And this helps women to be liberated to be women and not have to worry about these mundane things like where's their next meal coming, or fighting against enemies that might threaten the state, or feeling insecure to possible threats that lurk within society like rapists or murderers. There's always a man around to protect her, a man whose role and job is to protect her, make sure that she is safe and secure. But the woman does have a choice to work, and it is one that she can make, but she can make it out of leisure and not out of necessity. So the true reality of Islam is that men and women, they need each other. And in Islam, there is no battle of the sexes like that occurred in the West. Men and women are viewed as allies and helpers to each other, as the Quran says. And the believing men and women are friends of one another. They enjoin what is right and they forbid what is wrong, and they establish worship and pay charity, and they obey God and His Messenger. As for these, God will have mercy on them. And this helps maintain a very harmonious family environment when the roles are identified within that family environment, when there's expectations, which obviously are quantifiable expectations. Not just two people saying, let's get married, and then not really knowing how to organize themselves, and then having disputes, arguments, and fights over money being the most common reason for argumentation within relationships. Islam has a harmonious environment whereby people can, if they so choose, they can fulfill the roles which were assigned to them. Of course, as I said, women can work if they want to, but they're not expected to, and this is the important difference. Now, this maintenance of family is very important because if you look at a society that does not focus on maintaining the family, and forget about what the politicians might talk about, saying we need family values, but your society doesn't promote, intrinsically, ideologically doesn't promote family values. We see Mr. Justice Coleridge, who's a family court judge in the UK. This is what he mentioned based on his experience of the breakdown of the family within just the UK. And he says, almost all of society's ills can be traced directly to the collapse of family life. We all know it. Examine the background of almost every child in the care system or the youth justice system, and you will discover a broken family. So this is how Islam treats the basic unit of society, which is the family. The most important once you have the family correct and the family environment stable and nurturing, then the rest of society will come after that and be stable. But the question might say, well, I mentioned criminals earlier on. Is the Sharia inhumane to criminals? Does the Sharia treat criminals according to what they deserve, or does the Sharia it treats them too harshly or too strictly? And this area of the Sharia is considered to be very controversial. But if anyone knows me, I don't go away from controversy. So let's inshallah check out this and see if this is actually correct. First, let's look at the Western penal system, the Western system of punishment. It punishes all people who commit crimes, irregardless of whether they're drunk or not. So even though it lets you drink, and then when you commit a crime while drunk, even though you were drunk and you never commit this crime when you're sober, they will punish you for it still. If you commit a theft, you will be punished even if you're poor. Sure, there is mitigating circumstances, and of course, you might not get the same sentence as someone as a criminal who's not poor. But then again, how many criminals are not poor? Those who commit theft. And most of them are generally in the lower bands of society where they don't have access to the same kind of economic opportunities as other people. So most thieves are poor, but they're given punishments even though they are poor, and that's rather unfair. Lawyers, for example, will get you a better deal for the rich. So if you are rich, you can afford better lawyers. Why do you afford the best lawyers possible rather than a normal lawyer? That's because the better the lawyer is, the better they can basically get you a better verdict. But how can we have a justice system whereby the verdict depends on how much money you have? That's not fair. Slander and libel laws only protect the rich. So if you basically, they talk about free speech, but if you insult someone who is rich or a corporation or a business, you make an allegation against them, they can sue you, and they can sue you. But if they say something against you, you can't sue them. And why is that? Because it costs too much money. In this country, last time I had a look at this, roughly you have to start with about £50,000 to begin proceedings for slander and libel. This is why you don't see individuals sue corporations unless this individual is rich or like an actor or a politician. But if you're not rich, if you're average Joe and the newspaper slanders you, you can't sue them unless some rich person takes your case for you or some kind of organization. But generally speaking, that's not the case. And that's not fair. We see that in the Western system, the state can be very invasive. They can monitor your phone lines. They have cameras everywhere. They can check into what you're doing in your house and so on. They can spy on you in your homes, check your emails, and things like this. And again, this is it's turning into a bit of a police state in many of the Western countries, America, England, and so on. A lot of human rights groups are complaining about the increasing encroachment of the state on what they call people's liberties. And we also see that the punishment system in the UK and America is not deterring people, not deterring crime. So, for example, figures published in 2012 from the Ministry of Justice show that the total number of inmates in the UK are 87,668, and that basically means that the prisons are now filled to 98.1% capacity. So the prisons are filled to almost overflowing, and they have to find ways of dealing with increased prisoner intake. We see that America has the biggest prison population in the world, also being the most free country, as they say, quote unquote, the freest country in the world. And we see that basically 3.1% of all adults in the US are in prison. We also see that in the US, for example, within 3 years of being released, about 67% of ex-prisoners will reoffend, and 52% of them are reincarcerated. In the UK, 50% of all prisoners who are released reoffend in the first year, and 74% are convicted of another crime within 9 years. That's not really deterrence.